Okay, my name is Derek Lucas. I served 4 years in the United States Army. I got out as a sergeant. I currently work in the town of Yarmouth as a police officer. So I was born and raised just outside of Belfast in a small town called Montville. And when I got out of the service, there was a specialized veteran grant under President Obama that allowed me to get a job here in Yarmouth, and I was trying to find ways on getting back here after being stationed in Colorado. Yeah, so I signed up in 2007 as a cavalry scout in the United States Army, and I got out in 2011. I was in high school when 9/11 happened and the Twin Towers had come down, and I felt like it was my duty to serve, and I always had a strong calling for service and selfless service and sacrifice. So I joined up in the United States Army. Originally I was trying to become go to walk school and become a pilot, particularly with Black Hawks or Little Birds, and believe it or not, I failed on the eye test, so I ended up, they said just choose another MOS, so I said whatever's needed, and at that time it was a cavalry scout, and the plan was I was going to get the laser eye treatment and then become a pilot after doing a stint as a cavalry scout, and that's what I originally joined as. I originally tried joining up after high school, but my parents weren't very accepting of that, so I went to college first and then still enlisted as a grunt right after college when I graduated. And I became a cavalry scout. I went to basic training in Fort Knox, Kentucky. And they call it OSUT training, so that's when your boot camp and advanced individual training, or AIT, are combined as one, almost like one long basic training. So I went there, and then right after I got stationed in Fort Carson, Colorado, and deployed in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom and later on Enduring Freedom in about 10 days when I got out of boot camp into my duty station. When 9/11 happened, I was actually in my Algebra 2 class in high school, and when the World Trade Center had come down, I actually, my emotions were, I was pretty angry and upset about it, and I couldn't believe that something horrible like that actually happened, with watching the people jump out of the building as it was burning and coming down. So I always had that calling for selfless service, so I wanted to do my part and join the Army. And I always remembered a quote that Kennedy used to say, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." So that resonates with me, and that's why I joined. And I didn't go in as an officer because I felt like a good leader needs to have those experiences as dragging their butt through the same mud that the people they're leading are doing. So that's why I went in as a grunt, and I figured I'd go green to gold when I was in the military after serving a stint as enlisted, and then possibly become an officer and hopefully a pilot. So I come from a long lineage of generations of family members that all served in the military, like my grandfather and my great uncles. They served in World War II. My dad's brothers all served in Vietnam, and even before that, dating back to the French and Indian War, family members have served, and we always grew up here in Maine, right outside the Belfast area, that general area. Even the house I lived in was built originally by a family member back in 1865, and my dad rebuilt it. So there's always been that track record of patriots and service members in my family, and I wanted to continue that long lineage of it by doing my part and serving in the military. So when 9/11 happened and I was getting out of high school, I wanted to serve, and I made an agreement with my parents to wait till after I attended college, and then I still ended up joining up and serving. I served for 4 years, and so it's been a long road for me. I was a cavalry scout, so that basically entails, it was a lot of building searches, and so I mean you're right on the front line, combat arms. So saw some combat in Iraq and Afghanistan, and deal with some PTSD issues from that, which leads to this organization that I was connected with called Maine Pause for Vets. And for the longest time, I was haunted by some trauma from war and losing some really close buddies and brothers overseas, and it really haunted me for a while. So I basically hit a breaking point where I decided to go get help, and so that's what led me to getting into therapy, and then Maine Pause for Vets. And originally I had hid it from the police force because I was afraid that there's that stigma with cops serving with PTSD, that there's a negative thing about that and that shouldn't happen. However, you trace back to the shooting on the highway that I was involved in. If it wasn't for my combat experience, I wouldn't have known how to save that young girl's life with the help of my partner, Sean Miles. And so I say that veterans, especially ones that have been in combat, are very fitted for the job, and that's why it led me into a career in law enforcement after the military, was because I really had that drive and that calling to help people and selfless service and sacrifice. And that's why I do what I do. Is I'm ready to lay my life on the line for others, especially protecting the innocent and those that can't protect themselves. Back in April of 2023, there was a mass shooting on the highway here in Yarmouth on 295, and basically everyone in the area was responding to help as there was a shooter that was shooting up vehicles on the highway. My partner, Sean Miles, and I, we redirected out on the highway because I heard that there was no one there helping the family that had been shot and wounded. And as I arrived on scene, I saw the father that was cradling his daughter, his young daughter, early adult age about, and she was all bloodied, and the father was pretty distraught, begging me to save his daughter. And I started treating her, and I actually plugged her bullet hole with my finger, and I'd seen that in, after my experiences in combat and war, I saw a lot of trauma, so we knew how to treat each other through our training and through personal firsthand experiences. So I treated her there, and I know originally when EMS had got there, they thought that young girl was, dead and wanted her triaged for dead. And I stayed with her, told her, no, you're going to make it. And I rode with the ambulance down there with my finger in her bullet hole, holding pressure. And it was a pretty strong moment on the ambulance. I was opening her eyelids, telling her to stay with me. And she ended up living. And I know when I got down there, the nursing staff and doctors and surgeons of Maine Medical Center were able to save her life. And the family had a positive outcome to a horrible situation that happened on the highway, which I'm glad I was a part of. Obviously, I wish it never had happened, but I was glad that I was able to be there that day and directly help save that young girl's life, and same with my partner in helping out the family on the side of the highway. It was a life-changing event, and I know my personal experience from getting out of the military is I always felt like I didn't belong anywhere. It was very difficult transitioning to civilian life, and you kind of, when you get out of the military, you feel like that you have that sense of emptiness and unfulfilled, and you aren't really sure where you belong in society. Like you're the family member or the friend or even the person in public that your jokes are a little bit more inappropriate than others, or you have too many tattoos, or, you're giving that 1,000-yard stare, or, there's several different factors that a lot of veterans face. And I know one of my hardest ones was, making friendships and bonds when I got out of the military, because when you get out of the military, everyone goes their separate ways, and we're left to fight with the demons in our heads. And unfortunately, some of my close friends didn't make it, and even continued not making it when we transitioned to civilian life through, and I'll spread some awareness on veteran suicides. It's a real thing out there, and a lot of it has to do with dealing with those demons and not getting help for them, and afraid that society won't accept you, or feeling like you don't belong. And so that was always very traumatic and an issue for me, which I finally decided to get help after worrying that I wouldn't be able to be a great father to my son when he was born. So I started with my journey on self-worth and therapy, and now I wear it like a coat of arms. I mean, yes, I have a service dog. I'm very thankful for Maine Paws for Vets. Tracy Shaw and her program there really helped do wonders for me and saved my life, because if it wasn't for that, and also the vet center and therapists and things like that, I might not be here today. And geez, I'm getting chills thinking about it, but I was in some dark places, and I got the help I needed, though, and there is support out there for all veterans. And so I have a service dog. He's my psychotherapy dog, and it might be odd to most people how I'm a police officer and have a service dog. I don't try to push that on the police force, or trying to get my service dog to come to work with me or anything like that. Granted, it would be great, but I don't push for that. And he helps me so I can relax in public and in crowds and things like that, is because he's my psychotherapy dog. And he recognizes when I'm a little off or not right that day, and he provides me with a lot of comfort and makes me aware to it, or snaps me out of that 1,000-yard stare, or when I'm having, or I'm having issues just recalling the memories and events of various actions in war. And because they stay with you, they don't ever leave you. You always remember them, but it takes a lot to get help, and even more to stick with it and get that help through therapy and find what works for you. And I'm very thankful for many programs out there that have helped me become the man I am today and the father I am today, which has saved my life, and I'm very thankful and humbled by that. I'd like to end note on the stigma with police officers is a lot of veterans find themselves as first responders in life, whether that's nurses or medics or EMT or police officers, is because veterans don't know where to turn to, and they have this training, but the military doesn't exactly teach you how to apply that to the civilian world, and oftentimes you have these skills, but you're unable to use them. And so if you're out there and you're struggling with some trauma from war, or dealing with some stuff on how to transition to civilian life, there is help out there for you. And I strongly encourage you to sought out Maine Paws for Veterans, which there are several different types of service dogs out there. Mine is more for mental health, where you have some that are for like seeing eye dogs and stuff like that for the blind, or the hearing impaired and things like that, or even developmental disorders. There's all that out there that service dogs can apply to you. And Maine Paws for Veterans is right in Brunswick here, and I got put in touch with them because I saw their flyer, and they had been doing a presentation up in Brunswick, and I happened to see their flyer on the wall and thought, wow, you know what? I'm tired of living in the shadows. I'm tired of living in the darkness. I'm tired of feeling like I don't belong out there, or feeling like life isn't so grand, and you don't know how to act or feel, or, you know, you're that one that's struggling in a crowd, or you're that one that's just overall like not fitting in. And I know it leads to people staring at you and things like that, but through my journey of self-worth and therapy, I'm okay with people seeing me in those lights as, yes, I'm a veteran with a service dog, and yes, I'm a combat veteran. I'm proud of my service, and I wouldn't take it back for anything in the world. And I still stay in touch with some of my close brothers that are spread across the United States, and I'm proud that I was able to serve and protect you know, the homeland from any of the war that I had to see from coming back here, because I think America's one of the greatest places out there. And if you don't believe me, just go to some of these other countries that have a lot more issues than we do, and I'll tell you what, we definitely are the greatest country out there, in my opinion. And I was happy to serve it and give back to my country. So Maine Paws for Veterans, it's a nonprofit organization that, believe it or not, Angus King and his wife are huge sponsors of. And basically, if you're a veteran struggling with mental health and PTSD, or PTS now they call it, post-traumatic stress, and you're out there and need help, there is help out there for you, and that is Maine Paws for Veterans might be suited for you. And that's a program, a nonprofit that trains the veteran to train the service dog, and then you have to go through several evaluations and testing to be able to have a fully fledged service dog that's recognized internationally that you can take with you. And that's the journey I went on, and you'd actually be surprised on how much that would help. And I know I continue to volunteer with the program. I believe in their cause and their mission statement, and they really do give back to the veteran community. So I encourage all of you out there to, you know, check it out. They have a website on the internet as well as Facebook. It's Maine Paws for Veterans, and Tracy Shaw runs it. And it's a nonprofit where we fundraise and things like that and give presentations, and I continue to assist with that and volunteering my time. So if you think that's good for you, then, you know, I strongly encourage you get help. And it doesn't, by no means is this program telling you don't have to see a therapist or a psychologist or anything like that. This is a program to help you fit into society when you're having those real hard times and struggling. So I volunteer with them. We have classes that are coming up, so I volunteer assisting with demonstrations or volunteering with the new classes that are coming up that are getting trained. It's about a 6 to 7 month program. Usually starts up in March and ends in September when the class graduates, and it's 1 day a week. And there's always refresher training and recertifications for classes. So I go back to, because it's always ongoing training with my service dog, is I go back to continue to keep up with my service dog. His name's Scout. I keep up with his training, and I also assist the classes that are coming up. My unit, I was a part of Apache Troop, 110 Cav, 24 ID, which 2nd Brigade, 4th Infantry Division, and I was stationed in Fort Carson, Colorado, and my unit and I deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. And I know I have trauma from that. Many of us veterans do. We're the ones that you see, you know, if you do see a veteran out there and they're struggling. I know I touched base on post-traumatic stress and how important it is, and how there has to be awareness out there because of the number of suicides that veterans, that involve veterans, because they aren't getting the help, or they're homeless on the street and don't feel like they don't have self-worth in life, or they don't know where they belong, or they're the one that's struggling on injuries that they have, on trying to fit in, or trying to even doing basic things throughout life, and they can't do it on their own. Or veterans that struggle with their own demons in their head, such as myself, and I have my own demons, but I'm here to tell you, you do belong, and regardless of what you saw in war and everything, you don't have to share it. I don't really talk about it much, but I do have some trauma from war, and I got help, and it changed my life. It really did. And the Pause for Veterans program, Maine Pause for Veterans, is, I found that sense of family again, like a sense of purpose and where I belong. And I am among fellow veterans that can relate to me, why you're the person that has a little bit disturbed humor, or you're the person that has good days and bad days, or you're get triggered from fireworks, or triggered from even crowds, and you don't like crowded situations, and it's too overwhelming and too much. And so I want to put awareness out there where I don't think we do enough for our veterans, and there's a strong need for that, for those that put their life on the line, their lives on the line to protect, everyone here back home. And it's a small percentage of the population actually end up joining the service and being in the military. So I think we owe it to them to give back. And I know I'm going to be a lifetime volunteer for Maine Pause for Veterans, because I believe in the cause, I believe in the mission, I believe in the outcome and the end result on how many it helps. Matter of fact, on the way here, I stayed in touch with a brother that I served with, and I'm only staying in touch with two of them. I know my closest friend and brother, he's also part of that statistic of veteran suicides, and he did commit suicide back in 2015. And I still deal with it. It's hard because of some of the things that we went through. He was the guy I'd call up, and when I was having a bad day or a rough day, or vice versa, and we knew it was okay, and we're going to make it. But now he's not there with me, and he was one of the three closest people I stayed in touch with, and that's why I put that awareness out there. So I stay in touch with them. We try to have check-ins. I've developed other relationships through the program, Maine Pause for Veterans, and my time working as a police officer, that I stay in touch with several veterans now. I might not have deployed with those veterans, or been in the same unit as them, but we can relate, and we all have our own trauma that we deal with, and we can relate to the struggles that each of us are facing, and help support and lift each other up, so we aren't falling down in that pit of darkness or wandering down the rabbit's hole that we can never get out of. I'm here to tell you also, if you're a veteran struggling with depression and your wartime scars and trauma, that there is help for you out there. It starts with contact your local VA, and they are very familiar with many of these organizations and programs out there. Like there's FAST, there's the DAV, there's American Legion, and there's many organizations out there that offer help for you, and you aren't struggling with it alone. And for example, one of the things I do as a hobby is I put a name of a brother I served with that didn't come home with me, and I hiked to the top of a mountain and I lay that rock up there, and that gives me that sense of I'm remembering him in the way I want to remember him. And I believe in that cause. I believe in the Maine Pause for Veterans cause, and these are my organizations. They might not be suited for you, but if you contact your local VA, there is help out there for you. And I'm here to tell the public that if you see someone struggling, if you see a veteran that struggles with PTSD or with trauma, or you have a family member that has these struggles, not even with that, but struggles on readjusting to civilian life and coming back home. And you're struggling trying to leave the war and come back home and become a civilian again, because that's the biggest struggle there is out there in my belief, because, figuring out where you belong, what's your identity when you leave the military, and not many veterans know what to do or where to turn. So I encourage them to contact your local VA, and that's a starting point for you, and start dealing with the problems, start dealing with, I don't want to say problems, but the demons in your head, start going right at it head on. And that's the only way you can deal with it, is you got to get help. And I'm a firm believer of, you can only lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. Well, it's the same idea with veterans out there, is you can provide the resources out there, but they have to make the choice to move towards that direction of recovery when they're ready. So when I was serving, my family at the time wasn't very supportive of me joining the service from the get-go. But what family member wants to see their son going off to war and joining up in a time of war? But I believe that takes the strongest amount of courage to do that. And when I was in, we got mid-tour leave on deployments, or and when we're stateside on garrison and weren't training, when we're on garrison duty, we're able to come home and take leave, but there's only blocks of leave they allow you to take, and they tell you when you can leave and when you can't. And pretty much the government owns you at that point, so you don't have much interaction with family. And I realized I didn't want to raise a family in that environment where I miss a year of my kid's life, or 1 year here and 1 year there because I'm deployed. I didn't want to do that to my son or to my family. And unfortunately, I'm part of that statistic. A lot of veterans that are struggling out there, is we're trying to find that sense of identity and purpose and where we belong. And that's why I went into law enforcement. And unfortunately, I fit that statistic of divorce, and I'm finalizing a divorce currently right now, and it's been a tough road. And to find that sense of identity I struggled with suicide and having thoughts of suicide way back before I had gotten help, and it was a very traumatic part. So if you're a veteran out there that has had those thoughts, disturbing thoughts of suicide, or feeling like life isn't worth it anymore, I'm telling you, there are brighter days ahead, and there is help out there. Please contact your local VA, or have that phone tree of supportive veterans. I have a whole laundry list of veterans that I can call, that we all have shared our traumas, and we can relate to each other, that when we're having those dark days, or when we're triggered from an airport, crowded airport or restaurant or whatever, and we get triggered by that stuff, or the 4th of July is a tough time because of fireworks, and a lot of veterans deal with that because it sounds like rockets and mortars, and I know I'm bothered by it and I don't like it, but I'm telling you, out there is help for you, and please reach out, start that support network that you have a team of fellow battle buddies. They don't even necessarily have to be the ones that you served with, but find some that you can relate to, and start with the nonprofit organizations that veterans can belong with. And that's a starting point for you. And I'm here to tell you, you aren't alone. The struggle is real, and we're all here for you. So please contact your local VA, contact a veteran organization out there. There are several of them out there, like FAST and American Legion, the DAV, as well as Maine Paws for Veterans. There are several organizations out there that all offer help, and please don't struggle at it alone. Please get help. So I was a part of the American Legion. I'm now a part of the DAV, and I work with them, as well as my biggest one I volunteer for is Maine Paws for Veterans. That's the one that resonates most with me, and that's the one I tend to volunteer for, and that has put me in touch with other organizations. That gets me outside, but they're the main organization. With my busy schedule working as a full-time cop, it's difficult finding that time to be able to volunteer, but this is the organization I choose to volunteer. They're my family. I truly believe that inside and out. There's a bond there I can't describe, but we support each other, and we have even a group text message. When one of us is struggling, we all jump to help, and that's what we're all here for, is we're in the struggle together. And going at it yourself, you aren't going to succeed. It takes a team, and just like to complete a mission in war, it takes a team, and there's no I in team. So make sure you have that support out there, and find that organization that resonates with you. And I strongly encourage you to volunteer with it, stay in touch with the organization, stay in touch with the people that are in the organization. That way, if it resonates with you, you're working on your road to recovery. There's no curriculum or schedule that tells you how long your road to recovery is. I'm still on my road to recovery, and it's ongoing. So I continue to get help. I continue to see a therapist and work on myself, my self-worth, and working on getting help. So I'm staying on top of it. But if you're seeing this and you're a civilian out in public and you wonder how you can give back by helping these organizations. There's like Wounded Warrior Project, which is a huge one. I mean, there's Salvation Army. That's another big one. Those are ones that you can really help out a veteran and remind them that they aren't alone, and try to be supportive in helping them so it's not such a struggle on adjusting to civilian life. So do your background, do your research, figure out what the purpose or the cause of the organization is, and see if that's something that interests you. Contact them. See if you can just come in on a day they have a meeting. Like I came in and I had a very good conversation, emotional one with the people of Maine Paws for Veterans and with Tracy. And I'm not going to allude to those details, but I was able to share things and able to be a part of the organization, which I'm very humbled by how they've helped me and put me on a path to recovery, and continuing on my path of recovery that I was already on. But it starts with a phone call. Get the help, and start with your therapist, start with your local VA and get a therapist, get help. It does get easier, and there are brighter days ahead. Our good times, it was a lot of time we're in the field most days and didn't really get a lot of time off, but those times we'd make the best out of it. I have my buddy Lockhart. He's a close brother of mine, and even my gunner Gossick, we would have drinks together, party it up on the old Tejon Street in Colorado Springs, and have fun. And it was a team. You have the brotherhood, you have the family, and so we'd go out and do fun things like that. We would what else would we do? Even in the field, we talk about drinking coffee or having fun down at the range and stuff like that, making the best of everyday life. Even if you're training or whatnot, we make the best out of it and not get doom and gloom or get down because we're working and training and putting in a lot of hours and things like that. And even downrange, we would downrange, meaning when you're deployed, we'd even find good times there to be able to hang out, celebrate birthdays, and a lot of stuff happened on deployment. I wish I could share, but I can't share. But it definitely brings a smile and a laugh on recalling some of the great times that we would have, and and that's a bond that you have forever. So for me, ritual-wise, I still continue to wear my dog tags. I have tattoos that is a sense of memorial for me, and those are rituals I have when I was deployed and in war. Or I would, each time you roll outside the gate, you have the brotherhood huddle, and you pray for safe passage to be able to return from mission, and that it's a good one. And we all make it home, and we come home as a team. And regardless what happens, we're going to make sure everyone makes it home. So those were rituals that we have, and to this day, we have rituals where, personally, I leave on the anniversary of, one of my battle buddies' deaths that I was close with. I, go to the bar and I have a beer, and I leave a beer there for him, and I don't drink it or anything, and that's to remember that, to remember them, in a sense of honoring them. And so that's one method that I do, whether that's at my house or I go out to a bar and do it. That day's about them, and I spend that time remembering them, remembering the good times, and that's just something that I do. Other people have had rabbit foot. They think it's a good luck charm, or lucky coin, or I even had this buddy that would put his dog tags in his shoelaces on his boot, and he always used to joke around if his limb ever got blown off, they could identify him. So, those are six senses of humor that a bunch of us have, and that's part of the reason why we struggle with that sense of belonging and coming back from war. So, but those are examples of some rituals that I know of and what people have done. So when I got out, again, I was at Fort Carson. That was my main duty station. However, I was at many other duty stations like Fort Polk, Louisiana, Fort Lewis, Washington, even NTC out in California, and Fort Knox, Kentucky. And Fort Campbell was another one where I did my PLDC for becoming a sergeant. But when I got out, I sought after other veterans, and one of them that led me to was the Colorado Division of Wildlife, where I spent time working under game wardens and managing state wildlife areas. And my boss was a Marine Corps veteran, and he gave me an opportunity to continue. So I stayed out in Colorado for a couple more years, and then the old Michael Morrill, chief of Yarmouth Police Department, gave me an opportunity and hired me on a veteran grant, and I was able to return and come back home to the home state of Maine and be closer to family. And that's why I came back here, was to be there for my family. I think Maine is one of the best states that you can live in after being in many other states, and I think I love it here because I love the outdoors, and I continue to spend my time in the outdoors. And Chief Morrill gave me a chance to be able to have a life out here, and that is working for Yarmouth Police Department, which I've been an officer for 12 years now, and this is my story. As a scout, you get a lot of tactical experience and combat arms experience, and even experience with firearms. And so that's why it's a pretty paramilitary profession that you can go into, where a lot of those things can apply, and you have a wealth of knowledge you can share with others. And that's why I went into it, that and serving people and serving the public. But also I was good at my job as a scout, and I'm a good cop now. My job as a cop is because when you take the shooting on the highway, for example, that's the first mass shooting in Yarmouth's history, and I had a calling for that. I was able to perform, and you have the 3 Fs: freeze, flight, or fight, and and I can tell you I'm a fighter. So I went into that with my partner, unknowingly what our outcome was going to be, or even if we'd make it home to our families. But we knew what we did when we signed up, and just like in the military, there's that chance you don't come home when you sign up. And so I that's kind of how my experience was able to aid me in my career as a cop. Yes, the military has changed who I am as a person. The war never leaves you. It's always a constant struggle, and you have to stay on top of it and get help. So for me personally, it changed me as far as, I saw and did stuff that you're not always proud of, and that goes with other veterans out there. You have those struggles that you deal with, and the things that you saw and did, they still haunt you. So yeah, when you come home, you aren't going to be the chipper self there. You have almost like I guess innocent part of you where you just are experiencing life and the good times and living in the good times, going off to college, drinking, partying, sharing in laughs, having, fires with your, fire pits with your buddies and friends, or, getting married and going, supporting them through wedding and all these big events in your life. So yeah, it affects you. It affects you. A lot of times you're missing out on those things in life because that sense of purpose and that you belong and that you're worried that what people think or how they feel about you. And for me, it took me a long time to get over that. And really, I'm at the point in my life where I've come to terms with everything I've done in life, including in war, and I'm going to be proud of it. I have self-worth now, and I continue with my self-worth path of recovery for me, and that entails of enjoying life and getting back out there. And yeah, my life looks a little bit different than maybe it would have if I'd never joined the service, but it has its pluses and minuses, and I get to be proud of doing something for my country, and I'm very proud of that, and making it home, and now I live a positive life, in honor of that sacrifice that many people make, that ultimate sacrifice. And so I'm here to tell you, get help, and it's okay if you're a little bit different. I think we all are. Just remember, when you're watching those promotional videos about joining the military, it's not all that cool and what it's all trumped up to be. Just remember that getting in, that what you're signing up for, and talk to someone that has served and what that is like. And I know for me, it was a little bit different. Some of that downtime we had on garrison duty was, you're doing TDO tasks and things like that, and there's not always these huge, really cool things you get to do all the time, and it's 90%, doing the things you don't want to, and 10% doing the fun stuff. So I would say do your research, and if you're looking at going that route, it is a good one. It changes your life. You'll definitely get some maturity out of you, and you get to see the world. I mean, not the fondest places, especially if you're deploying in war, but it does help with college education. And a lot of my buddies, they went on to college, and now they have positive careers out in the workforce. And so it can be advantageous if you need it. And if you also are one of those people that also wants to give back to their community or give back to their country, then the military is a positive place for you. Then go ahead, see your local recruiter and see what you want to do. And I would say the more technical of a job profession out there, so mine as a Cav Scout it's hard to apply it to a civilian world when you're readjusting, but there are other jobs out there like communications, for example. You can be a radio man, or the healthcare field, or being a pilot. There's several several other job professions that the military offers where you can apply it to everyday civilian life, and when you get out, that experience applies there so you can get jobs and have a successful career. Being a part of this community, I think the community really doesn't know who the service members are or who served, which hopefully this sheds a light that we're among you. And we still continue to serve you all in this fine community. I love Yarmouth. I think it's a great place to work. It's a small community. I love getting to meet new people or striking up a conversation with them, or even when I respond to a call as a police officer, that could be the most traumatic time that they've ever experienced, where for me it's kind of had been in several situations that are very traumatic or stressful, but I'm very happy that I can provide closure and kind of calm a situation down and make it more of a controlled situation for people where, I can help get them through that. So even something as simple as a car accident might be the most traumatic thing for one person, and if I'm able to help that person get through that difficult time and really bring closure and compassion to a situation like that, I'm proud to do it. For me, the military background, some things apply, some things don't apply, just like the mission obviously varies. It's a little bit different. Also, you're working more with the public versus in the military, you aren't really working a ton with the public. And yes, you're out there in the public, and whether you're out on patrol in a war zone or whatever, you're outside the wire. So some of that stuff doesn't really apply to civilian world. However, my firearms experience applies to the job as a police officer. Also, how to manage your internal fears and in stressful situations, and being able to kind of morph that, let's be honest, and regardless of what the stressful situation is or the traumatic event, everyone's scared, but it's how you harness your fears and are able to process that and actually have an outcome where you can be productive and facilitate closure to a difficult situation. And so it really did apply. I was able to, that same calling I had to selfless service was the same calling that's why I got into law enforcement, was to continue serving my community. And that's something I'm good at. I know I'm good at. I know I'm good at operating under stressful situations, and I'm proud to continue to do that for my community. Even bringing calmness to stressful situations for people and calming a situation down, or learning, how to talk to people, verbal judo, things like that. You get experience the more you're out there in the public, and so I'm able to apply some of the skills in the military plus skills that I learned as a police officer to help guide people in the right direction so they are safe, that they have a good positive end result, and whatever that is. So I believe the skills do apply from the military right in law enforcement. That's why you see a lot of veterans go into law enforcement. Please get help if you are struggling, and thank you all for your service, and I'm proud to continue to serve my community.